welcome to the Transfer Zone. Although this time there's not much transfers going on. I am joined by two of our fantastic people as always. But first, my name is Matt, but you might as well call me Joseph with my many colours of shirts. Today
Many coloured
representing
jerseys.
many coloured jerseys. Thank you very much, Lottie. So just to start off with, we have got two transfers and to talk about. Adam, Anna Patten leaves Arsenal for Aston Villa. 19 WSL appearances, 3 Champions League appearances, 1 goal versus Koga. Predominantly played as a right back under Jonas Eidveld, but she now plays as a centre back. What are your thoughts on her leaving the club?
I think it's the right decision. I think we look back to Anna Patten, her career. She was one of our youth products, along with sort of lots of women work, but they came at the same time. Both went to the States, both came back from COVID. But I always felt that Lotte was sort of ahead in that sort of pecking order, and we've seen what she's gone on to do great things. And I think Lotte came through in the summer window, and then Anna came in the winter, but she never really got a sort of first team sort of a chance, shall we say. I know that my understanding is that the club did rate her quite highly, and in one sense I'm surprised because we know what the centre back crisis is at the moment. What with Leah being injured, Hafa sadly departing, we've got Jen Beattie. We now know he's obviously been kept on, and obviously Amanda has come in as well, but they're not that great with the numbers. And you thought maybe Anna might have thought, you know what, there's a chance here. I might be able to, this could be my moment to slip in and make a name for myself. But the truth is that the queue of centre backs, we're adding to it. We're not giving her a route through. The queue's only getting longer. We look at Fran Stenson. She's obviously gone as well because there was no route to the first team for her either. And as far as I'm aware, she did great things at Aston Villa last season. And it seems, for me, it's the right logical move. Aston Villa are a growing club. They're improving. A lot of talent there. You should obviously know Jordan Nobbs from another former Arsenal player. And I think all we can say is wish her all the best. I know she loved the club, and I'm sure she'd love to have stayed and become another Leah or become like Lotte. It's just unfortunate for her. She's almost been half a season behind everybody else, and it just wasn't the opportunities for her. But we'll always remember that fantastic goal against Kerr in the Champions League. If you do get a chance to watch it back on the YouTubes, I highly recommend. But yeah, best of luck, Anna. We won't forget you, Patsy.
I think as well, just quickly, because we'll talk a little bit about England as well. There was an opportunity maybe for her to possibly be in that maybe call-up squad, but Serena decided to set up the 26, and then whatever happened, she didn't choose her. Was there a possibility that had there been a 26, she might have been on that replacement list?
I couldn't see her breaking into it. She's been in the under 21s? Has she been in? She's
under 23.
Under 23, sorry. I think she'd have had to have played substantial games in the senior team before, getting a call up to the World Cup. I don't think Serena's going to do a Sven and call up an outsider like Walcott, like Walcott pick in 2006. I don't think Serena would have made that sort of call. I think she's talented centre back. She could play for England one day if the opportunity arose. I mean, Venice, like Arsenal, England are a bit short of defence at the moment. Maybe. I think this tournament probably came a bit too soon for her, if anything. So maybe if she does well at Aston Villa, becomes a rock at the back of this growing side, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw her in the Euro squad in 2 years' time. So something for her to hopefully strive for.
So just keeping with the transfer news, Vicky Losada.
What?
You know what? I'm going to hold my hands up. I was probably thinking of the Lasagna Gate incident, and I just automatically went wrong way. Vicky Losada, former Arsenal player, went on to Barcelona, went to Man City, then decided to go to Roma. Now she's gone to Brighton. So just your thoughts on Vicky?
I think it's fantastic. It's fascinating, and not just for Losada. She had, you're absolutely right. She was with us at Arsenal. I think she was with us when we won the FA Cup at Wembley, but I'm welcome to be correct on that one. obviously went to Barcelona, was captain of the Barcelona team that beat Chelsea 4-0 in the final in the Champions League, which, thank you very much for that. And then, I remember there was a bit of a stir when she came to Man City. I think Arsenal fans still wanted her to come back, still rated her quite highly. Didn't really do anything there. And then I had a good time at Roma. But Brighton, of all the teams in the WSL to sign her, it's a real statement of intent. Now, obviously, Losada, when Losada was at Arsenal, that was back in 2016. It's 7 years ago. Losada was not going to be the amazing player. She's a great player, but not saying she's been the amazing player of the past. But the fact that Brighton can attract a name of that quality, of a Champions League winning captain, they can attract her to the club. Something I said on Twitter a while back is I think that the WSL is going to become really scary now, because if a team like Brighton can attract Champions League quality players, the basement is rising. With every season, the likes of I said comments, I think Spurs will improve because their quality is there. They've got a new manager in. Beth England is their striker. You've got Brighton who are improving. You've got Villa who are improving. If you sit still for one season in this league now, you're gone. If Man City have brought Rord in, they're looking to improve. Man United and West Ham, I could see them slipping down if they're not careful. In fact, I would think if West Ham don't make any serious moves in this window, I think they're getting relegated next season. That's just my early prediction, getting out there now. Transfers pending. I think it's really exciting that Brighton have done this, and it's only good for the league, because for too long it's all the quality has been concentrated at the top of the league. If it's more, we see with Aston Villa, they've got quality players in there that could easily walk into an Arsenal or Chelsea or Man United. In case of Nobbs, she actually walked out of Arsenal, and now she's got the reward. She's playing for England at the World Cup this year. It's really exciting how strong the lower order are becoming, and I think this is only going to make the league more and more competitive and make me even more excited for next season.
Speaking of next season, there has been a rumour going around, so I'll bring Lottie in this time. Freya Godfrey has been linked with a move to Charlton Athletic. Charlton Athletic have actually signed a former West Ham player, Kate Longhurst, this week. Is there a real opportunity to Freya to develop as much as she has? Obviously, we haven't seen a lot of her because of her time with the dual loan spell over at Ipswich. Lottie?
Sorry about that. My mouse decided not to work. I think for her age, she should be going out on loan. Again, it's if I remember rightly, is it a dual contract?
It won't be a dual contract this time because she's over 18 now, so it'll be just a loan.
Fair enough. I take that wrong. Yeah, no, I take every loan she can get. I mean, I can't see her getting very much minutes unless it's in a cup. And the cups don't start till later on in the season. Obviously, we've got Champions League starting first. Can't see her starting there at all, to be honest with you. And we saw very little of Michelle Adjaman during that time. But I think a loan spell would be good for her, for sure. If she gets the minutes, that's the problem.
The only way she's going to get cup action is if we don't get into the Champions League, because then we get the Conti Cup group stage instead, and that will be the time to play the likes of Adjamang and Freya Godfrey. So it probably just depends on what happens there.
Thing is, they are in the Championship, so I think it's probably a good shot, because the Championship is just as tough as the WSL, if not a bit more tougher.
We should say, on the topic of Charlton, it's really good to see a club like Charlton, who used to be quite but pre-WSL, their clubs like them and Leeds United were some of the bigger players in the women's game, and sadly, their women's team got into major trouble when the men's team got relegated. And we should also highlight that Arsenal legend Casey Stoney used to play for Charlton, and Arsenal legend Alessia Russo was in the graduates, since it was part of the Charlton Academy growing up. So it has got heritage, and you never know. We now good risk of Godfrey going over there. If that is indeed the case, I'm sure she would do very well at a club like Charlton, and we will watch that with intrigue, that rumour.
So as we are on the verge of the World Cup, there has been some news. Unfortunately, Austria are not at the World Cup, and their current captain or ex-captain, Venegar, has decided to retire, which has meant that we have now seen a change of captaincies. Sarah Zadrazil of Bayern Munich will be the captain, and guess who is co-captain? Lottie.
It's one of the Arsenal girls. I already know the answer to this, but Adam, do you want to take a guess?
Well, I don't need to guess because I got the agenda that Matt wrote us in my phone, so it's kind of been spoiled. As you told us, Matt, Manu Zinsberger. It's a brilliant. Well, I say brilliant call. She's a great character. She's a leader in terms of goal. She's done so well with Arsenal, grown as a player, and so it's a worthy captaincy. As a person, I agree. She's probably a great leader. My only caveat, and this is nothing to Manu, but in terms of the profession of the game and how the tactic works, I've never been comfortable with goalkeepers having a captaincy role. I just always feel if you want to be, for me, the best position to be captain for me is either the heart of the defence or the heart of the midfield. I just think if you're a striker or a goalkeeper, if you're the extremities of the game, I just don't think it works as well for me personally. Henry, legendary player for Arsenal, Aubameyang, great striker for Arsenal when he was in his prime. Were either of them great captains for Arsenal? I think there's a discussion maybe to be a captain. In terms of, I think Vieira was a better captain than Henry. I think that Odegaard has been a better captain than Aubameyang, shall we say, just because of the position where they are on the pitch. Not saying they're bad captains. I think you're better captain if you're in the heart, if you're in the engine room.
If I'm honest with you, Aubameyang was a bad captain.
Exactly.
So you can't say he wasn't, because he was. He wasn't a leader. He's not. Thierry Henry had the leadership qualities, and it's the same as Vieira, the same as Odegaard. So to say that Aubameyang was a good leader is a bit of a kick in the teeth.
We're going a bit of a tangent here, but I should say that we should make that Aubameyang did, as a captain, won the FA Cup for Arsenal with 2 goals in the semi-final, 2 goals in the final, and won the Community Shield.
I'm not taking that away from him, but his attitude stunk.
But
as a Bundesliga fan, I knew this was coming.
Going on to Manu, I think no one can doubt her attitude is superb. And if she were an outfield player, if she were a defender midfielder, I think she'd be a terrific vice captain, potentially a future captain. Obviously, you say Zadrazil is the captain, and I think she's going to be a really good captain for Australia.
Australia?
We'll see. Austria. I get the two confused all the time. Austria. Australia. That's another discussion for another pod. I think she'll be a great. Manu will be a great vice captain for.
Is that the idea?
Personally, as a leadership, as a voice in the changing room, I think that would be good.
Is that the idea then? Is that the fact that not only is she a goalkeeper, she will have to make sure that she's concentrating at all times. She can't have that lapse in concentration that she sometimes does when, for example, she tries and plays a short pass and it's a couple of yards off, but it doesn't matter because the defender's
we remember the old Manu, certainly from the older games of playing us. There were lapses like that, especially on the ball mistakes, which I think she's ironed out. I could maybe, thinking about some more, I could probably consider as a vice captain, she would be the voice of the defence. And in that sense, maybe it can work. But as a full-time captain, because usually your vice becomes your full when the next captain goes, I couldn't really see her being a full-time captain. You only look at how great Captain Hugo Lloris was for Tottenham Hotspur, for example.
So I think we'll go on to a bit of toys and games news, actually. The first ever microstars or Corinthians, those that might remember the football players that had the big heads. Beth Mead is officially the first female player to have one, and McDonald's are doing a giveaway over in the UK at the moment. Only 10,000 of these, but they're only giving them away either through competitions or if they're at one of the McDonald's showings, which seems a bit, you can't find any information about anywhere, which is a bit silly, but it's great to see that Beth Mead, even though she's off the pitch, she's still doing everything for the game.
100%. I don't know these pocket star things. I mean, this is the first time I sort of heard of them was seeing Beth Mead. Lottie's eyes just widened again. The horror of how out of touch I am with the rest of society. I'm just not aware of the when it came up, I thought it was just a little bobblehead thing that you put in like a desk toy thing. I didn't realise there was actually a collectible thing around them. So it's news to me. But
I've got a collection of Arsenal ones, so I'm a bit surprised at that from you.
I was more trading cards than toys as a kid. But it's great that these brands and these toys are branching out into the women's games. And obviously Beth Mead she's not on the World Cup, but there's no denying she's an icon. The Euros made her that. And then she's very marketable. And I think this is a very shrewd way of doing it. And because obviously it's a limited run, it's a limited release, there's only a few, they're only going to be extremely valuable. And people will, I can think of a few Beth Mead fans who are going to be desperate to get their hands on them, however that is possible. So it's a nice link up with her, and obviously she's dealt with McDonald's before. I think she did some football classes with them as well. There was some stuff, activities she did with the kids. So it's good to see these marketing, these brands jumping aboard. I remember Alex Scott saying during the Euros coverage how she was having to fight with brands to get on board, and people were interested, and they sort of turn their nose at the idea of sponsoring, getting involved with women's football. And this is all part of the post Euros sort of wave that everyone's jumping on. And we're seeing that with the toys, and we're seeing that with the some of the adverts, shall we say, we've been seeing online and on the TV. So it's all good.
Lottie, have you got anything to add?
No, I'm a bit quiet today. I mean, Adam's hit it bang square on the head. I was a bit surprised that I've never seen these before, but that's about it. He's currently giggling at me, but he's hit it on the head. I can't add to anything, to be honest.
A giant bobblehead.
So we'll just go into some gaming news. So some people may have noticed that EA have officially got rid of the FIFA name and now going to be called AWFC. They have over the last couple of years, because they've I believe it's 6 or 7 years, and they've had the women's internationals in the game. Last season they finally branched out into clubs, but you could only do a season. You weren't able to do a career mode or anything like that. This season they've now added the opportunity for you to have your female players, so Beth Mead and Bukayo Saka potentially be showing the pitch on your as they call them, ultimate team, which is a interesting idea, but there's still more information to go out on that. And on top of that, Football Manager have also announced that in their 2025 edition of the game, women's football will also be a feature in game. Now, Football Manager have been looking to research the game as much as possible, try and get all that information and build that database for the past couple of seasons now. And to be given that date is very interesting. But I'd love to know both of your thoughts on that.
Feeling was with the footballers. I tapped out of FIFA for quite a few years, but what brought me back into it was the idea of playing women's football again playing women's football on it. I was very disappointed when it was just the international games. You can only play as England or USA, and you can only play old tournament on there. But thankfully, they did bring in WSL. We could play as Arsenal. We could play as Man City, and it feels like we've had to drag this through the mud. It's taken so much effort to say no. We just want to play the WSL. I would hope in the future we got a career mode. You get a career mode option, similar to the men's. Although I was thinking the other day when I was saying at the men's one and seeing how intense and how much extra stuff there is, and I thought, actually, no, what, it might just be easier just to play as a normal WSL feature. I should also add, it's great that I've got the World Cup on there now. I've been doing that a few runs on that with a few different teams. I would love it if maybe they got some more WSL commentators on there. We could probably think of a few, because at the moment it's just the same. One of the disappointments of FIFA is I'm not saying they're bad commentators, but it's always the same two voices across all the games. I think a bit of variety would be nice. The big intrigue I find is Football Manager. I've never played Football Manager. I've never really been invested in doing it. I've watched people do it and people think it's great. But I do think if Arsenal women became a thing on there, I might just be tempted to give it a go. So I'm going to watch that with great intrigue.
Lottie?
Again, Adam's kind of stole what I wanted to say, so I've got nothing to add to that.
Okay, well, We will talk just quickly on Karen Carney's new report about suggesting the outlines for the WSL and the Championship. So I'll try and go through these points as quickly as possible. Her outline was that she thought that they needed to fix the talent pathway because of the lack of diversity. She was looking to find strategic partnerships that were going to keep the game sustainable for the future. The WSL and Championship need to be a professional work environment. That means no teams would be allowed at all to go semi-professional. So that means teams like Reading, who recently gone part-time, would not be allowed to do that. They would have to have some sort of financial backing to keep them going full-time. That also means that they would need to provide physical and mental health provisions as well, just to keep themselves awake. So as well, I believe it's this right that Emma McCundy fought for when she was going through childbirth and things like that. That would be the same sort of ideas that they want to keep as professional as possible. They want to keep the elite facilities going. Again, some sort of representation with a union. So, for example, Leah Williamson might be the union representation for Arsenal. They do those as well. The leagues have a duty of care, and they've got to make sure that there's some sort of transition that should players like Ellen White decide to retire, they're able to transition into new jobs. On top of that, they're looking to address diversity throughout the club itself. They're looking for ways for the clubs to support fans. The government also need to be helping in this situation, committing to uphold again that duty of care that they've said. Increase the investments as well into the grassroots. The FA, the Premier League and the Football Foundation work to make sure that women and girls benefit from the funding across the football pyramid at the moment. That also includes from the WSL Championship, FA Women's National Leagues, then County League, and then further down. Games will also have other surprise announcements, including I've skipped a bit. No, that's everything. For the moment, ignore that last bit because I went over the wrong piece of information for you. But the idea is that essentially the game is growing and it's growing rapidly at a fast rate. I think we talked about this so many times. So, and there needs to be some sustainability for the future and development and improving these facilities and making sure that we don't have any more issues like we have seen at Coventry United, we have seen at Reading at the moment. Just get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. I think something does need to be done. Again, we saw Reading go down to part-time. I think they've let go about 8 or 9 of their players I read a few weeks ago. Could be wrong, could be more. But obviously these players are first team full-time players. They are looking for new clubs, and it's kind of what do they do now? Whether they've actually signed anywhere, I don't know. I haven't been keeping an eye on it, but that was the last time I actually looked at it is when it sort of the news broke. But no, definitely all for it.
I agree with Lottie. And to coin her phrase, she's hit the nail on the head. I think these reports just sort of highlight a lot of the sort of shortcomings that do still exist in the WSL, because we see the product growing on the pitch and we just think, oh, this is great, we're getting a great football, but it's nothing without the infrastructure behind it, and there's so much that needs to happen, and we only find out about the failings when we see a team like Reading get relegated, and suddenly it's, oh, we're downsizing, we're part-timing, these players have got to go, and thinking, well, just if you I'm probably not going to compare with men's football, but you think when, let's say, a team gets relegated to the championship, they don't suddenly become semi-professional. They're made outfit, and they continue to play football at a good level, and they try and get promoted back up again. And there is an element of if you fall out of the WSL group, shall we say, and you fall into a championship, suddenly it's the end of the world, and it's not. Bristol City prove that they come back up. I'm liking the idea of these facilities, as you mentioned. I think there is I think a lot of WSL clubs, thankfully, are improving facilities. Brighton, they remember a few years ago they released that they got this brilliant facility. But then I remember when the Russo signing came about, and you saw her walking around our facilities, and you could sort of see a little bit the amazement sort of in her eyes of what we have. And you think, what's at Carrington at the moment? And it's well documented that the roof leaks, and so does the stadium. They're a bit behind. They haven't invested in their facilities, and we should add that's not just for the women, that's for the men as well. So there's a I think we came out, that's over 10 years ago we've been going, and we've got to accept that started existing in the past. I've been watching back a lot of the old archive games and seeing us all playing old stadiums, non-league stadiums, or AstroTurf sports centres, and it's this is the standard.
Oh, that's a real shame.
Which level that we should be. What?
I was going to say it's a real shame, but that your internet cut out at the wrong time, because you were really bringing up some really good points.
Okay, I was saying that we're playing out these elite stadiums. We play at elite level. That's got to be reflected behind the scenes as well, in terms of contracts, in terms of what players are entitled to, in terms of players to be paid to do, in terms of being professional. Too many clubs have run the women's teams on a bare minimum, on a shoestring, to keep it going. Because you've got to consider now, if you're running a club, you're basically having to run 2 football clubs now. That's the thing now. Financially, you've got to consider, I'm not just investing in a men's team, I'm investing in a women's team. It doesn't have to be the same level. We're not asking Arsenal to spend £100 million to bring Pateas to Arsenal. That's just not going to happen. But
loves his face.
But at the same time, there has to be a level of financial backing you're willing to give to both. And that, if you're not willing to do that, then I'm sorry, don't run a women's team. But I think this is a good report by Karen Carney. And it's great that it's Karen Carney running this report, and not it's someone who actually knows the game, has been through the women's football pre-WSL, through WSL. She knows everything, what she's had to suffer to get to where we are now. So it's a really good report, and it remains to see how much of the advice, and pointers actually get picked up on, because usually with these things it gets put on a shelf for 20 years and never gets mentioned again. But I hope that the improvements suggested do get implemented.
So I'll just ask this one question to you. As I've been on the supporters board for the last season, unfortunately I've decided this season to give it up. Was there one thing that you would want to see carry on or improve for the next couple of seasons, fan-wise?
That's really long you've asked me this, because I always have really good ideas, and now you've asked me, I've completely forgotten all of them.
Okay, shall I give you top three? Shall I give you a top three? You can.
Okay, you give me a few.
Three. So, just from my personal experience, I look at a stadium like Lace Sports Village. I've already had the rant about it. Post-Man United.
You want it demolished. You want it leveled. You want it wiped from the face of the earth.
From what I understand, the logistics of it is that you need an accessible stadium. It can't be just everyone has to drive there. It needs to have some sort of transport link, and it can't just be buses. It needs to be buses and trains. Find somewhere that's just Salford is probably a better stadium. Salford,
yeah,
however you want to say it. Even though it's still not Manchester, it would have been a better venue to host something, because they have the facilities and the know-how to put on, and it's probably a bigger stadium anyway. But that's just my feelings, is that if you're a team and you just come into I look at someone like a Bristol, they've moved all their games this season to Ashton Gate. Yeah. Lottie, is there anything that you would like to see in the next, say, 5 years, fan-wise?
I want us at the Emirates full time.
That is the dream.
I know that's the dream, but the hints have been dropped. If you've been listening to the interviews by the boss and Leah Williamson, the hints are there. I mean, we've got 5 massive games I'd say 4 massive games, because one's a regular 3-pointer. So yeah.
Bit harsh on Chelsea.
Speaking,
I just know disrespect to this particular team, but they do get battered everywhere they go. So it's a case of, if they, as Adam said earlier, if they don't make no big signings, then they're just going to get absolutely demolished at the Emirates again. I think it's going to be interesting to see Liverpool and Villa there as well. Chelsea have been there before. So Tottenham are there nearly once a season at the moment, from what I know. I can't remember who the fifth is. It's Man United, isn't it? Yeah, Man United have been there before.
Yeah.
But
You're
this
nicking all
time
my
the
points
shoe
for the
is
next
on
one.
the other foot. Leslie
Yes.
Russo will be scoring for us. So
I should also add that
that is the dream, and as much as I cherish Boreham Wood, it's not big enough for us anymore.
I'm guessing you're going to quickly segue into the Barclays fixtures, Matt. So I'll
Yes,
let you.
that was the
I'll let you do
idea,
that first, and then I'll come
Lottie's
back with what I was going to say. So
Yes, so if you haven't known or know already, the WSL games are coming thick and fast. The first one is on the 1st of October at the Emirates, and it is against Liverpool. So it does mean that I do have an easier day. I can get there and back without a problem. For those that do want to know, I do live quite near Liverpool, so it's quite a track to do the Emirates now and then. But that does mean that it is going to be a very good day, and hopefully all three of us will be there alongside many of our friends and that we've had on the podcast as well. The next game, the first away game, is away to Manchester United.
I can't wait for that. I
am absolutely buzzing. That's going to be my first away game, and it's my birthday. So
you're going to. I think I don't really do away games as much. I do my away games I do normally around London, just because of transportation, and Matt's documented how hard it is to get to LSV. I will be watching that with great interest, though, because I think that's going to be the first really heated away game. I think there's going to be some real venom in the crowds, and I'm
gonna call it now. Leslie Russo to start up top. Better call it now. It's going to be glorious.
I think she's going to come for the bench and get a late winner.
What? I'll be honest with you. As long as she gets minutes, I don't care.
You know what? I imagine what's going to happen is someone's going to make a really bad tackle unless you're in that game. Katie McCabe is going to go full
two for her.
In that one. But yes, it is a very tasty game.
I think Bristol's going to be tasty as well.
Next up is on the 15th is the game against Aston Villa, again at the Emirates. Then we also got the other game at the Emirates, 10th of December against Chelsea. February 18th, we got Manchester United again at the Emirates. 3rd of March is the North London derby, as always, at the Emirates. This is one we all like to see because we all get to chant that famous chant that we all love to sing. And the 17th, I think this is going to be a really good game. It's Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, one of the last home ones. I believe that's 17th.
Yeah, I'm going to have to call Arsenal out on that one because I had a look at that and it was telling me it's Kings Meadow. I was like, hang on a minute. No, that's at Stamford Bridge.
Even Arsenal are surprised that Chelsea have dared to host a game at Kings Meadow. I mean, even they were caught unawares by that one. I think, firstly, should we just say, look, credit where it's due. Chelsea are playing this game at Stamford Bridge, which is actually the right thing to do. Flash over to Manchester United, who are too much of a coward to do it. They're playing it at the LSD rather than at Old Trafford. So, interesting that Man City have not yet had the honour of having their game at the Emirates Stadium. They were not the pick and said it was Liverpool and Aston Villa. And I'm really intrigued about those two games because it's very easy to get a good crowd in for a Chelsea or a Spurs game or a Man United game.
Yeah.
But are we going to get 40,000 fans for Liverpool or Aston Villa?
It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see what fans turn up. I think the Villa fans will turn up because there was a nice tidy pocket end of season. I think they will turn up because they do turn up at Villa Park. And I've forgotten the other ground's name.
Stamford Bridge.
Bescott.
No,
Bescott
Villa.
Stadium.
That's it.
Bescott. I think if we get a good crowd for these two games that aren't the top 3, top 4 teams, if we get a good, hopefully that will convince the more games at Emirates to snowball. Ben Ives made it quite clear that he sees us full time at Emirates Stadium. And 5 years ago, that'd be illogical because you wouldn't get the crowds in. But it's becoming more a necessity rather than an aspiration, which is really good. You mentioned about things about improving. My improvements Arsenal are doing with what they've done with the women's team getting the crowds up. What I want is other teams to do that. We need Chelsea are only now just like and Manchester United should be doing it. Why aren't we playing Man City at the Etihad? why aren't we playing Liverpool? I don't know what the allocations are, but I'm guessing you're not going to go to Anfield to play Liverpool. There needs what Arsenal are doing. Other clubs need to follow. I mean, we're not winning trophies, but we are leading the front in how you grow your women's team. It's to sound like a parent trying to console a child who's lost. It's not all about trophies. It's not all about winning trophies, because it's about growing the game and building your fan base. And I think maybe that's where Chelsea's mistake has been, is they've been focusing so much on glory and trophies. They haven't really built the game up beyond just going to Kings Meadow and winning the WSL. And that's what Arsenal are doing, and hopefully trophies will follow. But I think the main improvement should be look at what we're doing.
So just quickly, before we are expected to have 6 WSL games this season, I have a feeling they might be saving that last home game against Brighton. Potentially there might be another trophy on the horizon this time, and I have a feeling that's what they're going to have as the 6th game. So I just want to get your thoughts on. There's 5. We've only got 5.
I thought it was always 5 games.
No, we were given.
I thought it was always 5 games.
We were told we were going to have 6 this season.
Really? I wasn't aware of that. I always thought it was 5. And so when I saw 5, I thought 5. We don't know. I mean, there is a part of me that thinks if it was a season decider, like if it's a 1-point difference between the Arsenal and Chelsea, and we're a point ahead, and we've got a home game, is it a bit risky to throw it at an Emirates when you know you could probably win it at a Meadow Park? That's a bit of a gamble. It'd be interesting to see what they do. I think the weekend is also the same as the last weekend of the Premier League season. So
no, not this time.
See how that goes. Not this time. It was last season. It's not this season. It's different, is it? Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. If it's a final day of the season, they get a good party crowd in. You never know. I mean, we sold out Meadow Park for the Aston Villa game for the big finale. So we'll see what happens.
Lottie, just quickly, if that last Emirates game, who do you think it's going to be?
They've only announced 5, so we'll see what happens.
Right, okay, that is all the time that we have for you on the Transfer Zone /News Zone, and we'll be back in a little bit.